Where is my comments? There it is. Okay, that should work. And that. Okay, what are we doing? Yes. Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, the 12th of February, and this is AI with Kyle. I'm going to be running through the latest AI news and updates of the day. If you are on TikTok, apologies. The ability to share my screen seems to have been taken away from me. The TikTok Studio app is a bit rubbish, unfortunately, and I'm kind of tempted to go in and try to fix it using vibe coding, but it's not really my problem. It's a TikTok problem. So if you're on TikTok, I'm live on YouTube right now, so you'll be able to see the full stream there. Again, apologies. I've tried to fix it, but no, it's I'll be honest, it's a piece of crap app, which kind of brings you to the point of, I'm not sure about you guys, but I use so many applications. I use so many things on a daily basis that just they're not very well made. And a lot of the time I've done this before. I've given websites to Claude Code, and I said, hey, what's wrong? Why doesn't this work? And it's able to come up with a fix, and sometimes a fix that I can apply locally. So it does make me wonder about people who are building these apps, people who are building these websites, people who are building these pieces of software, and why they aren't just using Claude Code in order to make things better. So I'm sure that the TikTok app, or the TikTok Studio app specifically, which isn't working this morning, could be fixed very quickly in a couple of hours probably, but nope, instead there are probably thousands of people this morning not able to stream properly because of their poorly made piece of software. Slop is not exclusive to artificial intelligence, always remember that. Right, we're going to be talking about an article that came out a few days ago. When did it come? Can't see the date, but it came out a couple of days ago, and it's gone very viral on Twitter. This was a couple of million before. This is now at 70 million views. That is really going for it. And I saw some of the comments on it were from heavy hitters. Got Matt Wolf here. Hey, Matt. Nikita, who runs the he's head of product at X. He's saying, well done. You've changed the world with a single article. Okay. Maybe hyperbole. We'll hop into it and have a look at it. And I want to talk about this because I think it's an important article and it's worth discussing. It is long, so I'm going to include it in the newsletter tomorrow so you can read through it, but I'm going to cover this in a lot of detail because I think it's important. I think it's a message that we need to get out to a bunch of people. So again, this is from Matt Schumer. I'm going to be reading through it. I'm going to be giving my comments, but this all credit to Matt Schumer. This is not my article. So the article is called Something Big is Happening. We have an AI generated photo here. Pretty good one, actually. And I agree. Something big is happening. Let's see what Matt thinks it is. I think we're in alignment from what I've scanned through. And I'd love to hear what you guys want to hear. So think back to February 2020. If you were paying close attention, you might have noticed a few people talking about a virus spreading overseas, but most of us weren't paying close attention. The stock market was doing great, your kids were in school, you were going to restaurants and shaking hands and planning trips. If someone told you they were stockpiling toilet paper, you would have thought they were spending too much on a weird corner of the internet. Then, over the course of about 3 weeks, the entire world changed. Your office closed, your kids came home, and life rearranged itself into something you wouldn't have believed if you'd described it to yourself a month earlier. Yeah, it was a weird time, and it's weird thinking back to COVID. It was a strange time. I think we're in the this seems overblown phase of something much, much bigger than COVID. I've spent 6 years building an AI startup and investing in the space. I live in this world, and I'm writing this for the people in my world who don't. My family, my friends, the people I care about who keep asking me, so what's the deal with AI? And getting an answer that doesn't do justice to what's actually happening. I keep giving them the polite version, the cocktail party version, because the honest version sounds like I've lost my mind. And for a while I told myself that this was good enough reason to keep what's truly happening to myself. But the gap between what I've been saying and what's actually happening has gotten far too big. The people I care about deserve to hear what is coming, even if it sounds crazy. I don't know about you guys, but I have this exact same feeling whenever I talk to people outside of our AI sphere, whenever I'm at parties, and they say things like, oh, no, I don't really use AI. I used it a couple of years ago. It wasn't very good. And it can never do my job. I've talked to so many people who say that it can never do what I do. They'll agree, oh yeah, it can do what other people do, but me, no. I'm a special petal. I'm a special rose. It can never do what I do. Yeah, I don't know if that's ignorance or arrogance, but it's going to bite people in the arse, unfortunately. But in polite company, at dinner parties, I don't go to dinner parties. What am I talking about? You don't go in hard on people and say, hey, no, you need to wake up. This is coming for you and your job and your family and your community. You don't do that. You don't say anything. So Matt Schumer is saying exactly the same thing. For the last couple of years, he's been polite about it, but it's time for people to realize, like, shit, it's here. I should be clear about something up front, Matt continues. Even though I work in AI, I have almost no influence over what is about to happen, and neither do the vast majority of the industry. The future is being shaped by a remarkably small number of people. True. A few hundred researchers at a handful of companies, OpenAI, Anthropic, Google DeepMind, and a few others. Honestly, it's those big three, I would say. XAI don't have a hand on the ball, and the Chinese AI companies are doing very well, but they're still at this point behind, about 6 months behind. So it's mainly these big three, OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google. That's kind of it. And I would argue it's less than a few hundred researchers, because there's even less people at the top and they're the ones making the decisions, and a few others. So a single training run managed by a small team of over a few months can produce an AI system that shifts the entire trajectory of the technology. We saw this last week with Opus 4.6 and the ability for it to work independently for, I think they set it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, building its own C compiler. That one prompt, I think it was a 200-word prompt, knocked large chunks out of the stock market when people realize that, oh crap, this can now build software at an advanced level. It can orchestrate itself. It can work through a large problem, and it can create something complex. We are constantly surprised, or the public is constantly surprised, when the AI keeps getting better, despite all of the evidence over the last couple of years that it's getting a lot better, a lot faster. So a small team, a 200-word prompt to create a C compiler in Opus 4.6, then releasing that publicly, the findings saying, hey, look, these AIs can orchestrate and work by themselves for an extended period of time. That was enough to rattle the stock market and to cause a number of company stocks to come crashing down, because SaaS is looking very, very, very fragile at the moment. And that's, again, a small team over a few months can do that. Most of us who work in AI are building on top of foundations we didn't lay. So yes, we build on top of OpenAI, we build on top of Anthropic, we build on top of Gemini. We do not train our own models, because now it costs hundreds of millions of dollars to do so, and you need a huge amount of processing power and electricity. It is not feasible for the majority of companies. It's only these behemoth companies who are able to do this. We're watching this unfold the same as you. We just happen to be close enough to feel the ground shake first. And then Matt continues, but it's time now, not in a, eventually we should talk about this way, in a, this is happening right now and I need you to understand it way. I know this has happened because it happened to me first. Here's the thing nobody outside of tech quite understands yet. The reason so many people in the industry are sounding the alarm right now is because this is already happening to us. We're not making predictions. We're telling you what's already occurred in our own jobs and warning you that you are next. We've had a couple of high-profile resignations over the last few days. We had the head of AI safety at Anthropic resigned with a very floral, very beautiful resignation letter that had, I think, 4 footnotes and a poem at the end. But the fact that he resigned is a little worrying. And we've had a number, there was another resignation just, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago as well, of high-level people saying, I'm out. I don't want to be part of this. So for years, Matt continues, AI has been improving steadily. Big jumps here and there, but each big jump was spaced out enough that you could absorb them as they came. Then in 2025, new techniques for building these models unlocked a much faster pace of progress. And then it got even faster, and then faster again. Each new model wasn't just better than the last, it was better by a wider margin, and the time between the new model releases was shorter. We have a name for that, it's called Exponential. That's me, Kyle, not Matt saying that. I was using AI more and more, going back and forth with it less and less, watching it handle things I used to think required my expertise. So I am somebody, Kyle, myself, I am somebody who has to cover this every single day. I'm keeping on top of what is happening in the world of artificial intelligence, and this is 100% right. It is getting faster. It is not slowing down. In fact, it is just getting faster and faster and faster and faster. The releases are coming much quicker, and the jumps are much larger each time. That's why a lot of people are feeling extremely far behind at the moment, because the speed of pace is not something that we're used to in terms of technology, in terms of change. Humans are not very good at rapid changes, and the models are moving so fast. There's this concept Ethan Mollick has of the 3 sleepless nights. Basically, if you sit down with artificial intelligence, you actually think about AI, and you really grapple with what this means for you, your job, your family, your community, your country, the economic systems. Once you actually engage with them, you're going to have 3 sleepless nights. You're going to be up at night being like, oh my God, what if it, oh God, but maybe this means that, and you're going to not be able to sleep because it is worrying, and it should be worrying. If you have not had those 3 sleepless nights, Ethan Mollick says, then you're probably not thinking about this enough. You probably haven't gone through all the ramifications in your head and realized, oh shit. So I had a 4th sleepless night last week with the release of Opus 4.6 and Codex 5.3 hot on its heels, and adding them to my OpenClaw, my Claude bot. I had this realization of, oh God, this is getting really fast. This is getting really, really good, really, really fast. And this is going to be a problem. And I say this as somebody who is engaging with this technology on a daily basis. Last week for me was oh God. Oh God, oh God, oh God. We're moving towards something earth-shattering very quickly. It could be AGI. It doesn't really matter. The functional usage of it means that a lot of jobs, a lot of lives are going to change very, very quickly. Oh God, he's talking about the same thing here. Then on February the 5th, okay, so he had this exactly 1 week ago, 2 major labs released new models on the same day. GPT 5.3 Codex, so good, from OpenAI, and Opus 4.6 from Anthropic, the makers of Claude, one of the main competitors of ChatGPT. And something clicked. Okay, so Matt felt exactly the same as I did. Something clicked. Not like a light switch, more like the moment you realize the water has been rising around you and now it's at your chest. This is like with crabs in a pot or frogs in a pot, and the water level, the temperature is rising and rising and rising. And then suddenly it's the realization like, oh, it's a bit warm in here. That's what I had last week as well. So I'm glad to see Matt felt the same. His realization was, I am no longer needed for the actual technical work of my job. I describe what I want built in plain English, and it just appears. Not a rough draft I need to fix, the finished thing. I tell the AI what I want, walk away from the computer for 4 hours, and come back to find the work done. Done well. Done better than I would have done it myself, with no corrections needed. A couple of months ago, I was going back and forth with the AI, guiding it, making edits. Now I just describe the outcome and I leave. So this has been the criticism that's been thrown at vibe coding for the last couple of years. I mean, the term vibe coding was coined about a year and a week ago. It was early February 2025. And people were like, oh, well, yeah, it can write some lines of code, but I don't trust it. And it can never do architecture. It's never going to be able to kind of construct a whole plan for a piece of software. And then, even if it can do the architecture, if it can work out all the big pieces, it can't work out what it should be building. It can't decide what a good application is going to be, what a good piece of software is going to be. The bar keeps rising. So a year, 2 years ago, it couldn't write code properly. Syntax has now basically been fixed. We've seen people like Andrej Karpathy talking about this, saying, okay, syntax is done. So the line by line by line piece of code, that's done. So we're moving up the levels of abstraction, and AI is very quickly chomping up each of these levels. The coders and the programmers are falling back each time and being like, oh, well, yeah, sure, it can do that, but it can't do this next part. And in 6 months down the line, it can do that next part. So we keep moving the goalposts back. We keep retreating. This is, to be clear, not just for coders. There's something called the Jagged frontier, in artificial intelligence, where AI is improving at different rates in different sectors. It's improving very quickly in coding and programming because the people building it are coders and programmers. They want to build pieces of software. This is their domain. It's not pushing forward as quickly in other areas because the people focusing on the problems are not as savvy with the AI technology. So accountancy, legal, for example, it might not be pushing forward as fast there because the people working on the problems are coders and programmers, and they're not necessarily thinking about how to do this in law and accounting. That does not mean it won't be coming. It will, as soon as somebody who is in that domain, somebody who has that industry experience, combines the technology that we have, the vibe coding, the agentic engineering, with legal work, with accounting work, then it's just going to sweep through. But at the moment, progress is very much focused here. So even if you're not a coder or programmer, you need to pay attention to what's happening in this particular domain as a canary in the coal mine for what is going to be happening to your industry further down the line. So Matt continues, let me give you an example so you can understand what this actually looks like in practice. I'll tell the AI, I want to build this app, here's what it should do and roughly what it should look like. Figure out the user flow, the design, all of it. And it does. It writes tens of thousands of lines of code. Then, as this is the part that would be unthinkable years ago, it opens the apps itself. It clicks through the buttons. It tests the features. It uses the app in a way a person would. If it doesn't like how something looks or feels, it goes back and changes it on its own. It iterates like a developer would, fixing and refining until satisfied. Only once it has decided the app meets its own standards does it come back to me and say, it's ready for you to test. And when I test it, it's usually perfect. So this is new. A year ago, our tools didn't do this unless you were kind of very clever with it and set it up to do recursive and iterative testing. Now it's becoming more and more normal. It will just create and test itself, work out the bugs itself, and then come back to you. So a lot of vibe coding a year ago was getting a rough draft from the artificial intelligence, running it, looking at it and being like, this is a bit shit. Here's what you need to do to fix it. Or there's a bug here. It didn't work for this reason. Here's the code of the bug, the console response. This is what's gone wrong. Fix it. So a lot of it is that back and forward. We no longer need the human to do that part anymore because the AI will deploy it, see what the bugs are. If there's any bugs, fix those bugs. The AI will deploy it, have a look at it, click around, move through it as if it was a user or as if it were 10,000 users arriving and trying different things. And work out how it can improve with each iteration, with each run through. This is what we're moving towards. We're removing more and more from the human because we're not really needed as much. Once again, this is coding and programming specifically, but this will be coming for other industries. You just need to extrapolate out. So he says, Matt continues, I'm not exaggerating. This is what my Monday looked like last week. But it was the model that was just released last week, GPT 5.3 Codex, that shook me the most. It wasn't just executing my instructions, it was making intelligent decisions. It had something that felt for the first time like judgment, like taste. The inexplicable sense of knowing what the right call is that people always said AI would never have. A long time we've been saying this. It's like, well, you can use AI tools, but the AI doesn't have a taste. It doesn't have judgment. It's not good at that kind of stuff. So we still need a human operator who has that judgment to tell it whether it's done a good job or not. This has been yet another defense. I've used this myself, saying you are still valuable because you have been working in your industry, you've been doing your task for a decade. You know what a good output looks like. You know whether it's done a good job or not, and therefore you are able to instruct the AI better. That may not be the moat that we think it is. That may not be required for that much longer. So he's saying that Codex 5.3 has taste. It has something or something that is close enough to that distinction is starting not to matter. Matt continues, I've always been early to adopt AI tools, but the last few months have shocked me. These new AI models aren't incremental improvements. This is a different thing entirely. And here's why it matters to you, even if you do not work in tech. The AI labs made a deliberate choice. They focused on making AI great at writing code first. I've just talked about this, because building AI requires a lot of code. If AI can write that code, it can help build the next version of itself, a smarter version which writes better code, which builds an even smarter version. Making AI great at coding was the strategy that unlocks everything else. That's why they did it first. My job started changing before yours, not because they were targeting software engineers. It was just a side effect of where they chose to aim first. Yep. They're not focusing on the other industries yet, because it's not as important as making an AI that is better, because then the AI can just focus on the industries for them. There is no point OpenAI setting up a department that focuses on building AI for legal, or building AI for medical, or building AI for accountancy. That's not worthwhile. Instead, you make your main general model, ChatGPT, you make it better and better and better and better until you can just set it on those industries, and it will have those industries locked up in a day. So you don't bother with the focusing. You don't get humans to focus on it. You just focus on creating the best AI possible, and then you can set it on the different industries, and you can flesh out that jagged frontier very, very quickly. Matt continues, they've now done it, and they're moving on to everything else. The experience that tech workers have had over the past year of watching AI go from a helpful tool to it does my job better than I do is the experience everyone else is about to have. Law, finance, medicine, accounting, consultancy, writing, design, analysis, customer service. Not in 10 years. The people building these systems say 1 to 5 years. Some say yes. And given what I've seen in the last couple of months, I think less is more likely. But I tried AI and it wasn't that good. I hear this constantly. I understand it because it used to be true, Matt continues. If you tried ChatGPT in 2023 or early 2024 and thought this makes stuff up or this isn't that impressive, you were right. Those early versions were genuinely limited. They hallucinated. They confidently said things that were nonsense. This is still a defense that people put up when they're talking about artificial intelligence. They'll say, yeah, I used it back when it came out and it was crap and it made things up. And then they'll give you an example of something it made up. And it's like, okay, cool. It doesn't really do that anymore. Or it's got search, or it's got deep research mode. And if you are using it correctly, that's going to be less of an issue. Now, hallucination rates have basically nosedived over the last couple of years. And if it is something where you cannot have hallucinations, you cannot have it making things up, you're going to use a deep research mode, or you're going to use search, and you're going to ask specifically, hey, can you make sure you footnote this? We've seen some embarrassing examples like Deloitte twice last year put out reports that had AI hallucinations in it. That's probably because they weren't using a model that limits hallucinations, and they prompted it incorrectly, so it didn't actually check on its sources. And then finally, you do a human check, especially if you are publishing a report to a government. They gave one to the Australian government for millions of Australian dollars. You have a human check it. You have to do these things. But a lot of people are still using ChatGPT like they were a couple of years ago, or they used it a couple of years ago and never used it again. And they've been left behind because they don't realize how far AI has come. So Matt continues, that was 2 years ago. In AI time, that is ancient history. Yes, 2 years in AI is an obscene amount of time. I've got some books like this. This is a history of artificial intelligence. Great book, but it was published before ChatGPT came out. So it is, as you can imagine, a little bit behind on its predictions of what's going to happen. The models available today are unrecognizable from what existed even 6 months ago. Hell, shit, they're unrecognizable from a month ago. The debate about whether AI is really getting better or hitting a wall, the plateau that we talk about, has been going on for over a year. And that debate is over, Matt is saying. It's done. Anyone still making an argument either hasn't used the current models, has an incentive to downplay what's happening, like they don't want it to happen because their job relies on it not happening, or is evaluating based on an experience from 2024 that is no longer relevant. I don't say that to be dismissive. I say it because the gap between public perception and current reality is now enormous, and that gap is dangerous because it's preventing people from preparing. So this is why I, Kyle, set up AI with Kyle, is to get people ready for what is coming. I've been writing about this stuff for a couple of years, talking about how you need to use artificial intelligence, take advantage of it and set up a business, set up income, start getting money coming in using this tool. And it's the easiest time ever to start a business, because our jobs are about to get absolutely sledgehammered. And there is no way around that, unfortunately. And it's going to be coming for industry after industry. I'm not saying this to be alarmist. I'm not saying this to be a doomer. I'm saying it is a reality. that we're starting to see. And you need to have other sources of income, other things that you do that are outside of your job, so that you have some flexibility, you have optionality, and you're ready for this. I've put together something called the AI Readiness course. It's a free course. If you join the community AIwithkyle.com, you can get it there. And then there's a whole bunch of guides and courses. Again, it's all free. I've got 8 free courses and 100+ playbooks talking about how you can use AI across the board for building a business and for generating money. This is not, get rich quick stuff. These are very detailed guides, because we need to prepare, and we need other people to prepare. And if you care about people in your life, you need to tell them, hey, you need to get your head out of your butt, basically, and pay attention to this, because otherwise it's going to be really messy. So Matt continues, part of the problem is that most people are using the free version of AI tools. Yeah. The free version is over a year behind what paying users have access to. Judging AI based on free tier ChatGPT is like evaluating the state of smartphones by using a flip phone. The people paying for the best tools are actually using them daily for real work know what's coming. So I use Opus 4.6 and I use Codex 5.3. They're on the top plans. I have a $200 a month Anthropic plan, and I have that connected to OpenClaw. I use that in Claude Code. I use that in Cursor. And that's why I'm able to produce so much. That's why I'm able to create not just software, not just applications and websites, but I use it for my daily driver for all work. I use Claude Code in all aspects of my life. All of my business. So if I need marketing copy, for example, I'm running a Meta ads campaign now with over 90 video variations. I had AI help me script all of that. I recorded them myself. I don't use AI avatars, but then I used it to create a system of testing out these adverts, all of the copy that I need to be testing, and then the testing schedule. That's all being passed over to AI, and that is working really, really well. So it's not just for coding. It's not just for building websites or building applications. You can use this stuff in all aspects of your business and your personal life as well. But if you are using a free version of ChatGPT, you might not realize just how good some of the latest models are, unfortunately. So there is a growing gap between the people who can afford to pay for it and who can afford $100 or $200 a month, which is not cheap. That's a lot of money, and those who cannot. So Matt continues, think of my friend who's a lawyer. I keep telling him to try using AI at his firm, and he keeps finding reasons it won't work. Lawyers are the worst for this. I was at the pub the other day, this is months ago, but I ended up talking to a lawyer, and he's in chambers here, and he told me all of the reasons. He found out I worked in AI, and he told me all of the reasons why AI would never work, and and it was not helpful in law, and basically he was telling me why his job is safe, and he had all these beautifully constructed arguments about why that was so, and I wasn't going to fight him on it. That's like, okay, you're being obstinate, but your work is done, basically. And lawyers are very good at arguing why it's not, but I think it's going to absolutely crush the legal industry moving forward. So this guy, he keeps finding reasons it won't work. It's not built for his speciality. It made an error when he tested it. It doesn't understand the nuance of what he does. I'm special. It can't do what I do. And I get it. But I've had partners at major law firms reach out to me for advice because they've tried the current versions and they see where this is going. One of them, the managing partner at a large firm, spends hours every day using AI. He told me it's like having a team of associates available instantly. He's not using it because it's a toy, he's using it because it works. And he told me something that stuck with me. Every couple of months it gets significantly more capable for his work. He said, if it stays on this trajectory, which it probably will, and it'll probably speed up if anything, he expects it'll be able to do most of what he does before long, and he's a managing partner with decades of experience. He's not panicking, but he's paying very close attention. There was an article in The Spectator called AI Will Kill All the Lawyers, which was a very similar theme. Basically, the journalist, he sat down with a senior English barrister, put a few vodka martinis into him, I think it was, or espresso martinis, and the barrister spilled that it's over, and he's been using AI, and the AI does things better than he as a senior barrister can do already, and he said that the industry is about to get absolutely steamrolled. Again, we're not talking about lawyers in particular, we're not talking about coders in particular.
these are just examples from industries that you need to extrapolate wider out and think about your industry. You need to think about what's going to happen in your industry, because AI will hit every single industry at different times. That is the jagged frontier. The people who are ahead in their industries, the ones actually experimenting seriously, are not dismissing this. They're blown away by what it can already do, and they're positioning themselves accordingly. This is something I harp on about again and again and again. Every industry out there needs their person, the AI guy, the AI person for lawyering. Lawyering? That's not what it's called. For legal. The AI person for nursing. We need these people out there creating content, teaching, educating, doing workshops, getting up on stage, talking to their peers about, hey, this is here. This is going to be an issue, and you need to pay attention to what this means. We need all these people in all of these different industries. I can't go and talk to lawyers about why they need to pay attention to AI, because I don't know enough about their industry. I can't go and talk to doctors about why they need to pay attention to this, because I don't know enough about their industry. We need people like you, if you're sitting at home, who have been in an industry, who have domain experience, who know what AI is useful for, know what it's not useful for yet, and are paying attention to the technology. We need you to go and talk to your people, and it's super, super, super important, and it's a very good place to be. So when I go and give workshops, I charge about £2,000 an hour to give a workshop, and I have lots of other people who do that. I have 150 students who I license my material out to, and they go and give workshops too, and can make thousands per hour, because companies and individuals right now are sitting up and thinking, oh, what do we do about all of this? You can get paid very well by taking that position in your industry as the person. I am the person you go to when you want to learn about AI. It's a very good opportunity right now. So Matt continues, how fast is this actually moving? Let me make the pace of improvement concrete, because I think this is the part that is hardest to believe if you're not watching it closely. In 2022, AI couldn't do basic arithmetic reliably. It would confidently tell you that 7 times 8 is 54. I think that's a terrible example, Matt, but that is fine. They're not made for arithmetic. They're made for language, and they can use tools to do arithmetic, but we're not going to get stuck there. I just don't think it's a good example, Matt. That's fine. By 2023, it could pass the bar exam. That is something that AI or large language models are much better at than doing arithmetic, so that's fine. By 2024, it could write working software and explain graduate level science. And by 2025, some of the best engineers in the world said they had handed most of their coding work over to AI. On February the 5th, 2026, new models arrived that made everything before them feel like a different era. I think it's really hard to kind of, we're very poor at seeing trends. Humans are not very good at it. We're good at looking back 20, 30 years and be like, oh yeah, we can see which way it's trending. When we're in the midst of it, we're not very good at it. So it's very difficult to kind of think back and remind yourself how bad AI was a couple of years ago. What I find really useful is if we look at visual AI, because comparing like GPT 3.5 to GPT 5.3 is quite difficult because it's a little bit abstract. What we can do though is we can compare images, because this makes it a lot easier. Let's see if I pull this one up. Oh, I don't know. Get out of here. What are you doing? There we go. So this was February 2022. This was Midjourney version 1. Oh, this is far too old. Okay, that's fine. This was within... No, that's wrong. That is not correct. Let's find another one. There we go. Oh dear, we're going to LinkedIn. We don't want to go to LinkedIn. We don't like LinkedIn. There we go. Can I get rid of that? Nope. So here we go. Version 1. What was the prompt? I don't even know. Anyway, this was version 1 of lady with dappled, I assumed lady with dappled lighting. Version 2, version 3, you can see it's starting to get a face at least here. Version 4, a bit cartoony, not really hyper realistic, but then it goes on. And this timeline here is 2 years, 3 years. We're doing the same thing right now with video. If you've seen the new Seed Dance videos, we have just crossed over the point where video has become pretty much hyper realistic and very easy to do with a minimal prompting, in the same way that Nano Banana Pro took us over that kind of benchmark a couple of months ago. This is a much easier way to show people the progress of artificial intelligence, because when you ask them to think about the change from GPT 3.5 to 5.3, that's far too abstract. So I like to use these visual examples instead. If you haven't tried AI in the last few months, Matt continues, what exists today would be unrecognizable to you. There's an organization called Meta that actually, METR, that actually measures this with data. They track the length of real-world tasks measured by how long it would take a human expert that a model can complete successfully end-to-end without human help. And about a year ago, the answer was roughly 10 minutes. Then it was an hour, then several hours. The most recent measurement, Claude 4.5, showed the AI completing tasks that take a human expert nearly 5 hours. And that number is doubling approximately every 7 months, with recent data suggesting it may be accelerating to as fast as every 4 months. So tasks that would have taken a human quite a substantial amount of time. I mean, 5 hours is realistically how much somebody works in a day, because nobody actually works 8 hours really, do they? Because they're faffing around so much. Now AI can tackle those kind of tasks of that complexity with no problem, and that is speeding up. But even this measurement hasn't been updated to include the models that just came out this week. In my experience using them, the jump is extremely significant. I agree with Matt here. There was something special about Opus 4.5 and Codex 5.3, which I do not normally feel about the incremental model changes. We get a new model every couple of months, and normally it's like, oh yeah, it's cool, it's fine. So like 5 to 5.1, that's fine. 5 to 5.2, yeah, sure, that's cool. 5 to 5.3, for some reason, it's like, oh, shit, okay, here we go. And it's the same with Opus 4.5 to 4.6. I wasn't expecting to be blown away, and then I started using it, and I was like, okay, this is a much bigger jump than I expected. If you extend the trend, and it's held for years with no sign of flattening, Matthew continues, we're looking at AI that can work independently for days within the next year, weeks within 2, month-long projects within 3. So we've already seen this with the C compiler. So did this come out after Matt? No? Okay. So the Anthropic team set Opus 4.6 on the task of building a C compiler. Compilers are not easy to build. And it worked on the project, here we go, to stress test it. I tasked 16 agents with writing a Rust-based C compiler from scratch, capable of compiling the Linux kernel. Over nearly 2,000 Claude code sessions and $20,000 in API cost, the agent team produced a 100,000 line compiler that can build Linux on various different processors. So he says, the compiler is an interesting artifact on its own, but I focus on what I learned about designing harnesses for long-running autonomous agent teams, how to write tests that keep agents on track without human oversights, how to structure work so multiple agents can make progress in parallel, and where the approach hits its ceiling. So this was a fascinating example, and I think this worked for 2 weeks with very limited human interaction. So it just went off and did its own thing, with all the agents working things out amongst themselves. When one hit a block, it would go up to, like a manager agent who would help to delegate to the other agents in order to work their way through. And they just continued on in this way for weeks and spent $20,000 worth of credits until the task was done. So that's where we're moving. So Matt says we'll probably be there within a couple of years. We're kind of there. We are there already. So I would say these timelines that Matt puts out here, shrink them. Amadei, the head of Anthropic, has said the AI model is substantially smarter than almost all humans at almost all tasks are on track for 2026 or 2027. That's AGI. That is artificial general intelligence, when we have an AI that can, at the same level or higher, complete any task that you throw at a human being. So it's general because it can generalize to any task, rather than narrow, which is focused on specific tasks like writing sonnets or doing legal work or playing chess. That is a narrow task. general means that one model will be able to tackle all of those things with the same level and beat humans across the board. So Amadei, this was at Davos a couple of weeks ago, he was saying, yep, we'll be there in a year or two. Whereas Demis Hassabis was a little bit more conservative. He said there's a 50-50 chance that we get there by the end of the decade, so 2030, which is still, that might sound like, oh, he's been overly conservative, and oh gosh, why is he talking about such slow timelines? That is not slow. For us to create an intelligence that is greater than ours, for the human race to finally experience an intelligence superior to ours, changes our place in the universe. And the fact that that has a 50% chance of happening in the next 4 or 5 years is not slow. Our dopamine-addled brains may think that that's a long time now, but good God, it is not. That is very, very quick when it comes to technological change, economic change, social change. That timeline is tiny. Historical change normally takes a long time, but we're talking about, I don't know, 3-4 years. Let that land for a second. Matt continues. So if an AI is smarter than most PhDs, do you really think it can't do most office jobs? Think about what that means for your work. AI is now building the next AI. Here's one more thing happening that I think is the most important development and the least understood. On February the 5th, OpenAI released GPT 5.3 Codex. In the technical documentation, they included this quote: GPT 5.3 Codex is our first model that was instrumental in creating itself. The Codex team used early versions to debug its own training, manage its own deployment, and diagnose test results and evaluations. So notice the Codex team is still here. Will they be? Will the Codex team be needed for the next go around on this? Or could you set Codex 5.3 on the task of creating Codex 5.4 Codex by itself with minimal human intervention? So this gets to the question of recursively self-improving artificial intelligence. This is something that Geoffrey Hinton has warned about. So Geoffrey Hinton does a lot of talks where he says, we've let it out of the box. As soon as we open source the models and allowed people to download them, that was basically opening Pandora's box, and that was a big mistake. So he's quite anti-open source for that reason. But one of the big fears of Geoffrey Hinton is that the models will start to recursively self-improve. And when that happens, that's the ball game. That is when we will accelerate beyond our ken, beyond our ability to keep up with the technology. And we'll very quickly go to AGI. And then if we hit AGI, ASI, artificial superintelligence, will probably happen almost immediately afterwards, because the AIs will work out how to get to that next stage much faster than we ever could. And that's when we get very sci-fi, but it could potentially happen in the next couple of years. And this is the risk that Nobel laureate Geoffrey Hinton talks about, is recursive self-improvement. And that's exactly what is happening here. They're still required, the team, to set it up, to say, hey, we're building a new model. But practically, how much longer will that be needed? So Matt continues, this isn't a prediction about what might happen someday. This is OpenAI telling you right now that the AI they just released was used to create itself. An early version was used to create the final version. One of the main things that makes AI better is intelligence applied to AI development. And AI is now intelligent enough to meaningfully contribute to its own improvements. Dario Amadei, the CEO of Anthropic, says AI is now writing much of the code at his company. So Cowork, for example, was written in Claude code fully, and the Claude code team uses Claude code to write Claude code, the updates and improvements. And Boris Cherny, the head of Claude code, says they don't write human code anymore. It's all written by Claude code. Some of that might be marketing, but I don't think it's much of a leap of imagination to believe it's true. Dario says that feedback loop between the current AI and the next generation AI is gathering steam month by month. He says that we may be only 1 or 2 years away from the point where the current generation of AI autonomously builds the next. Each generation helps build the next, which is smarter, which builds the next faster, which is smarter still. The researchers call this an intelligence explosion, and the people who would know, the ones building it, believe the process has already started. This is again why we might be seeing resignations coming from some of the top labs. The head of safety at Anthropic put in his resignation last week, and I'm sure he's going to go and retire with a lot of stock, or sell off his stock and go and retire to a beach and not have to worry about it. But one of the reasons was, we are building something that we can't control, and this is dangerous, and I don't want to have anything to do with it. It's a bit like quitting the Manhattan Project while you're building a nuclear weapon. Yeah, so we should probably be concerned. Matt continues with what this means for your job. I'm going to be direct with you because I think you deserve honestly more than comfort. Dario Amodei, who's probably the most safety-focused CEO in the AI industry, has publicly predicted that AI will eliminate 50% of entry-level white-collar jobs within 1 to 5 years. So again, Amodei and Anthropic are the ones who are most focused on safety. They're most focused on ethics. They have a chief philosopher. No other companies have one of those. Yes, their safety lead did just leave this week, which is a bit worrying. But they are generally more careful about their development than a lot of the other companies. OpenAI are just busy, just releasing, just get it out the door. XAI do not care, as we can see. Whereas Anthropic are a bit more sure-footed, and they want to make sure that their models are very good, very safe, very protected, and they are. They're the most prompt injection proof, for example. But even then, the most safety-focused CEO is saying, hey, it is going to take out 50% of entry-level white-collar jobs within a year or so. That's pretty big. 50%, that is most of our workforce going into white-collar jobs are just not going to have jobs, and it's already a poor job market. It's not going to get any better. And many people in the industry think he's being conservative. Given what the latest models can do, the capability for massive disruption could be here by the end of this year. It will take some time to ripple through the economy, but underlying ability is arriving now. So there's this concept of the capability overhang in artificial intelligence, where it's going to take some time for individuals, for companies, for economy, for the stock market, etc., to kind of realize all the things we can do with AI. We can already do a huge amount that we are not. The capability of AI is already so high, but we as humans have not managed to harness all of that capability yet. So there's an overhang. So Ethan Mollick talks about the fact that if we stop developing AI right now, it would still take us years to catch up and to practically implement it throughout our society. But instead of that, it is continuing to get better, so that overhang is getting larger and larger and larger. There are still huge opportunities to actually use the AI in daily life and in business that haven't been taken yet. So yeah, that's going to take a while because organizations, institutions, companies are slow. It takes time for stuff to ripple through. There's a lot of bureaucracy. There's a lot of red tape. There will be pushback from Labour, and not the party, but Labour as in workers. There'll be pushback in order to save their jobs. So it will take time for the full implications of artificial intelligence and the full capability to be pushed into companies, but it will happen eventually. This is different, Matt continues, from every previous wave of automation, and I need you to understand why. This is really important. This is really important. AI is not just a tool. Okay, here we go. AI isn't replacing one specific skill. It's a general substitute for cognitive work. We've never had this before. It gets better at everything simultaneously. When factories automated, a displaced worker could retrain as an office worker. When the internet disrupted retail, workers moved into logistics or services. But AI doesn't leave a convenient gap to move into. Whatever you retrain for, it's improving at that too. Let me give you a few specific examples, Matt continues, to make this tangible, but I just want to be clear that these are just examples. This list is not exhaustive. If your job isn't mentioned here, it doesn't mean it's safe. Almost all knowledge work is being affected. Legal work. AI can already read contracts, summarize case law, draft briefs, and do legal research at a level that rivals junior associates. The managing partner I mentioned isn't using AI because it's fun. He's using it because it's outperforming his associates on many tasks. What will happen here is we'll stop hiring at the lower levels. We will knock the base out of the pyramid because there's no point hiring low-level analysts, low-level clerks in the legal profession. That means that we won't have clerks who are raising up through the progression and cutting their teeth on the low-level grunt work. That low-level grunt work, like discovery, for example, gone. AI is going to take all of that. So this same pattern will happen across many professions and many industries, where the entry level will go first. It will be absolutely gutted. And people will say, well, if you take out the entry level, then we won't have people learning how to be lawyers and accountants, and then the whole thing comes tumbling down. They won't do that. There's no way they'd destroy their own industries. Yes, they will, because the people making these decisions, the managing partners, the heads of these firms, they're thinking about their bottom line right now. They are thinking about they're thinking about retirement in 5 to 10 years. How can they maximize the profit and reduce their costs as much as possible over the next couple of years? Artificial intelligence. They don't care if the firm is around 20, 30 years from now. Plus, you have the fact that your competitors, your other people in the industry are starting to use artificial intelligence, which means your hands are tied behind your back and you do not have a choice as to whether or not you start to use artificial intelligence. So I've heard people say, oh, no, industries won't do this themselves. They're not stupid. They won't stop hiring people because that will collapse the whole pyramid. They don't care. They just want to maximize profits in the short term as long as possible. They're not thinking about the 10, 20, 50-year future of the firm. Financial analysis. Building financial models, analyzing data, writing investment memos, generating reports. AI handles these competently and is improving fast. Yeah. Writing and content, marketing copy. Report, journalism, technical writing. The quality has reached a point where many professionals can't distinguish AI output from human work. This is why I shut down my digital marketing agency. Back when GPT 3.5 came out, I remember using it and thinking, it's a bit crap, but I think it might get better. And I think a couple of years down the line, this is going to be a huge problem. Massive problem. Writing adverts, writing copy for sales pages, preparing campaigns, etc. That's all going to be automated. We'll be able to produce 100 different variations of a sales page, test them all with real traffic, see which one works. We don't need to handcraft that anymore, so I'm out. So I actually shut down my agency because of this, because I saw the writing on the wall. I have people who are still in the agency game, who are still in the marketing sphere, and I am glad I made that jump. I'll put it that way. Software engineering. This is a field I know best. Matt continues. A year ago, AI could barely write a few lines of code without errors, and now it writes hundreds of thousands of lines that work correctly. Large parts of the job are already automated, not just simple tasks, but complex multi-day projects. There will be far fewer programming roles in a few years than there are today. Yeah. I had somebody on my live yesterday who said, I'm studying computer science. What do you recommend? And it was very difficult to give an answer that wasn't, oh shit. My answer was start to build something that you can sell yourself, because if you are relying on an employer to give you a job, that's a bad bet, because the job market's going to get absolutely slammed. So go out, carve your own space, start to build something, which requires, yes, you need to learn how to run a business, you need to learn marketing, you're going to have to learn all this stuff as well, but that is how you survive. And thankfully, there's huge opportunities right now using AI to make a lot of money very quickly. I saw there's a guy, just as an example of a mad thing you can do to make money. There's a guy in San Francisco right now, and because OpenClaw or Claudebot is so popular and everyone's like, oh God, I need it. How do I set it up? He will come round to your office or come to your house, and for $2,500, he will set up a Mac Mini for you. He'll secure it, he'll install a Claudebot on it, help you get set up on Telegram or whatever. You pay him $2,500, boom, boom, he's done. He's only doing it in San Francisco because I think he's literally driving around and doing it for people. But apparently he's made about $1 million already. So there are opportunities. You just need to pay attention. Medical analysis, Matt continues. Reading scans, analyzing lab results, suggesting diagnoses, reviewing literature. AI is approaching or exceeding human performance in several areas. Yeah, scans, so imaging in particular, it's not going to be great. They're very good at reading scans, better than humans. And interestingly, when you have a human and an AI working together, that does worse than the AI by itself. The humans muck it up basically. So certain areas will be extremely extremely liable to disruption, like imaging, whereas others, for example, nursing, will not be as much because it's non-algorithmic. Every single day you're dealing with different shit, basically. It's more physical. There's a physical component, and robotics is still behind, and it requires a lot of human empathy. So nursing, pretty safe. Radiography, done. Customer service, generally capable AI agents, not the frustrating chatbots of years ago, are being deployed now, handling complex multi-step problems. Yeah, the problem is we still use the word chatbot. So most companies, when you say, oh, I'll build you an AI chatbot, they're still thinking of the crappy ones from years ago, which were based on decision trees, not on large language models. We kind of need another word. I guess customer service agent is a bit better. They're not really agents, but that is the marketing term. So we could go on. We can talk about every single industry. All industries will get hit at different rates. So some will be safer for now, but they're all going to be affected in some way. And remember, even if you are in a safe industry, if other industries are not safe and people are losing their jobs and people are losing their incomes and industries are collapsing, your industry will have knock-on effects. There will be problems in your industry because there's going to be less disposable money out there, less disposable income to spend on you and your service. So I know I've talked to a few people who are quite smug. They're like, oh, it's actually not going to touch mine. It's like, well, yes, it is, because I don't know, if you're running a physiotherapy clinic and AI can't really do the physical manipulation, that's fine. But what if people have no money to pay you for PT sessions, physical therapy sessions? So you have to think about the second and third order consequences here. So Matt continues, a lot of people find comfort in the idea that certain things are safe. The AI can handle the grunt work but can't replace human judgment. Creativity, strategic thinking, and empathy. I used to say this too. I'm not sure I believe it anymore. I'm agreeing with Matt here. The most recent AI models make decisions that feel like judgment. They show something that looked like taste, an intuitive sense of what the right call was, not just the technically correct one. A year ago, that would have been unthinkable. My rule of thumb at this point is, if a model shows even a hint of capability today, the next generation, so a couple of months from now, will be genuinely good at it. These are things that improve exponentially, not linearly. I can't say that word. I had this yesterday when I was working on my ad campaigns for the Meta ads, and I have 90 video variations. And I was like, I'm going to set them all up. I'm going to run them all against each other. And my AI said, no, don't do that. That's the wrong thing to do. And I was like, oh, excuse me. And it told me how I should do it properly based on my budget, saying, hey, you're going to choke out your ad variations. Your budget's not high enough to test this amount of variations. Therefore, we're going to run these series of tests. We're going to test the hooks first, then we'll test the body, and then we'll test different variations, etc., etc. So it gave me a testing schedule, and it pushed back on me and said, no, the way you want to do it is not correct. We can do it better. That's what we need, and that's increasingly happening, because that is not just doing what I tell it to do, because that's not what I want. That is instead judgment and taste coming into it, and it telling me, no, we are going to do this a better way. Matt continues, will AI replicate deep human empathy, replace the trust built over years of a relationship? I don't know. Maybe not. But I've already watched people begin relying on AI for emotional support, for advice, for companionship, and that trend is only going to grow. So tellingly, or importantly here, GPT 4.0 is being deprecated tomorrow, the 13th of February. A lot of people are very upset about that. I did a video about this, actually. I was in a Tech Radar article yesterday. Let me pull it up. So I was quoted in a Tech Radar article. I talked to a journalist about this. Basically saying we shouldn't dismiss this. This is, I know, even if you don't feel companionship, even if you don't feel empathy from artificial intelligence, it is wrong of you and it's unkind of you to be mean to people who do feel this. So I think this is a large usage of artificial intelligence. Open Router did a study and they found about 40% of the open tokens coming through their router were for role play and companionship purposes. So this is a huge usage of AI that even if you don't use it, doesn't mean it's not a real usage. There's also, I was chatting to a guy who runs a business and they're just integrated an AI phone system. And when they had a high volume of calls, they couldn't deal with they didn't have enough human operators to take all the calls, so they switched on their AI system before it was quite ready, and they're like, okay, we're just going to test it. We're getting inundated with calls, so they switched it on, and then at the beginning of a call it would say, hey, do you want to talk to an AI? We're going to put you through to an AI. If you don't want to talk to an AI and you want to talk to a human, no problem, we'll put you straight through. Nearly everybody just stayed with the AI. Especially they found younger people, so Gen Z, do not want to talk to a person. They are perfectly happy talking to an AI. So we might be overestimating how much people need a human for things like customer service. And now this company is fully moving towards artificial intelligence-based calls because it worked so well. They were pushed towards it by crisis. They had too many calls, but after that they're like, that was really good. That worked really well. Yeah, human customer support is very expensive. So yeah, we'll see how that decision goes. Matt continues, I think the honest answer is that nothing that can be done on a computer is safe in the medium term, I'd say in the short term. If your job happens on a screen, if the core of what you do is reading, writing, analyzing, deciding, communicating through a keyboard, then AI is coming for significant parts of it. The timeline isn't someday, it's already started. Eventually, robots will handle physical work too. They're not quite there yet, but not quite there yet in terms of AI is becoming here faster than anyone expects. 100%. Physical work is a bit safer. It's not safe. So when I see people saying, oh, I'm going to retrain as a plumber, remember it takes, 3, 4, 5 years to become a plumber. You're going to be coming out into a market where some other people have had the same idea of you, so they have also retrained as plumbers, and then we have too many plumbers, and that increases supply, decreases what you can charge, and maybe a couple of years later we have robots that are general purpose enough to start taking those jobs. So it's tricky. Just training in the trades as a carpenter or a plumber or a sparky or whatever is not the instant get out that a lot of people think it might be, because the robots are coming. They're expensive and they're a bit crap at the moment. They will not be 5 to 10 years from now. Okay. Wow, this is long, and I do have a call in 15 minutes. So Matt continues, what should you actually do? I'm not writing this to make you feel helpless. I'm writing this because I think the single biggest advantage you can have right now is simply being early. If you are watching this live stream right now, if you're watching this on YouTube later, or a video, a short clip of it, or whatever, you are early. You're way early. I go and talk to the public a lot about artificial intelligence. Most people are still using ChatGPT, and they're using it as a Google replacement, basically. That is the level. They're also using the free ChatGPT as well. So you are well ahead. If you are even thinking about things like OpenClaw and Claude Code, and you're up to date on what the newest models are, you are leagues ahead of the rest of the world. So you're in a really good position. So what can you do? So start using AI seriously, not just as a search engine. Sign up for a paid version of Claude or ChatGPT. It's $20 a month. I would say the best $20 a month you can spend on anything. But two things matter right away. First, make sure you're using the best model available, not just the default. These apps often default to a faster, dumber model. Dig into the settings or the model picker and select the most capable option. Right now it's GPT 5.2 on ChatGPT or Opus 4.6 on Claude, but it changes every couple of months. One proviso on that is that if you use Claude Opus 4.6 on a $20 a month plan, you are going to hit the wall very quickly. If you can afford $100 a month, I would recommend it, but start with the $20 a month until you start hitting that wall regularly. Second, most important, don't just ask it quick questions. That's a mistake most people make. They treat it like Google and then wonder what the fuss is about. Instead, push it into your actual work. If you're a lawyer, feed in a contract and ask it to find every clause that could hurt your client. If you're in finance, give it a messy spreadsheet and ask it to build a model. If you're a manager, paste in your team's quarterly data and ask it to find the story. The people who are getting ahead aren't using AI casually, they're actively looking for ways to automate parts of their job that used to take hours. Start with the things you spend the most time on and see what happens. 100%. You need to start with your tasks. Don't go and find out what other people are using AI for, because it's not relevant. Think about what you do on a day-to-day, what is repetitive, what takes up a lot of time, what do you find extremely boring. Hand it over to AI. Spend an hour working out how to do that, and then you're not going to have to do that task for the rest of your life. It's well worth that investment. And don't assume it can't do something just because it seems too hard. Try it. I get so many people come to me and saying, oh, can AI do this? And my answer is always, I don't know, try it. Like, just stick it in, see what happens. If you're a lawyer, don't just use it for quick research questions. Give it an entire contract and ask it to draft a counter proposal. If you're an accountant, don't just ask it to explain a tax rule. Give it a client's full return, maybe don't do that, and see what it finds for privacy reasons. The first attempt might not be perfect, that's fine, iterate. Rephrase what you asked, give it more context, try again, and you might be shocked at what works. Yes, you just have to play with it, you have to try it out. Here's the thing to remember. If it even kind of works today, then you can be almost certain that in 6 months it would do it perfectly. The trajectory only goes in one direction, 100%. This is what I say to people if they are having difficulty doing a certain task with AI. A couple of things you can do, but one of the methods is you just wait. Just wait 6 months and then try it again, and you'll be able to do it. It's no problem. Matt continues, this might be the most important year of your career. Work accordingly. I don't say that to stress you out. I say it because right now there's a brief window where most people at most companies are still ignoring this. The person who walks into a meeting and says, I used AI to do this analysis in an hour instead of 3 days is going to be the most valuable person in the room. Not eventually, right now. Learn these tools, get proficient, demonstrate what's possible. If you're early enough, this is how you move up. By being the person who understands what's coming and can show others how to navigate it. Again, I charge $2,000 and £2,000 an hour for going and teaching people stuff at workshops. It's good money. That window won't stay open long. Once everyone figures it out, the advantage disappears. You need to move on this now, 100%. Also, I know some people will say, well, if I used AI to do this analysis in an hour instead of 3 days, and I walk into a meeting and tell people that, that's going to cause problems because we're not allowed to use AI, and my manager doesn't like AI, and such and such and such. Leave. Get out of that company. Leave. They're done. If they're not using AI, if they're not embracing this is not hyperbole. If your company are pushing back on AI, if they are banning AI, it's done. That company will not be extant. It will not be around a couple of years from now. It's going to get crushed by new people coming in and using AI natively, or by companies, your competitors, that are using artificial intelligence. If your company, not the one you run, but the one you work for, is not embracing this, it's game over. It just might not feel like it yet, but a couple of years from now, it's done. So leave. Absolutely get out of there. Next one up from Matt. Have no ego about this. The managing partner at that law firm isn't too proud to spend hours a day with AI. He's doing it specifically because he's senior enough to understand what's at stake. I have a great example of this. Of one of my trainers went in and taught a bunch of accountants and lawyers over in America. Very smart people. Extremely smart people. They knew their profession, they knew their job. However, they still needed help with things like how to start a new chat in ChatGPT, why they should get an account instead of just using the free version. What was the other one? Oh yeah, how to add like line breaks and stuff, like so you could organize your thoughts a bit more. Like really things we would consider so basic. But these are very smart people. They just haven't used artificial intelligence yet, and they're not good at it, and that's fine. We all start somewhere, and you need to start, you need to make mistakes, you need to learn how to use this technology, and then you move from there. If you do want a heads up though, go to aiwithkyle.com, join the community, and there's a free 5-day AI readiness course which will get you started. Okay, I'm going to have to finish this up because this is an incredibly long essay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in the newsletter tomorrow. So far, I've agreed with nearly all of this, and it's a fantastic essay, and I can see why it's got 71 million views, because it's very good. I recommend you read it all. I also recommend you send it to people. So you might read this and be like, yeah, obvious. Send this to people who are outside of our little AI bubble, because they kind of need to know what's going on too. So I will add this into the newsletter tomorrow. That will be free. That is at aiwithkyle.com. Then come to join the community, and that will get you access to the newsletter and a bunch of different courses, etc., etc. I will put this Matt Schumer article in full into the newsletter, as well as my analysis and commentary on it as well. And all of this will appear on YouTube. Let me pull up the actual one. There I am.
First signs of burnout.
No. We're not listening to that. You can find me on.
The first sign.
Very obnoxious. At I am Kyle Barmer over on YouTube as well. We're at 15,500 subscribers, so we are slowly making our way. But go and join the newsletter, and you'll get all of these, all this information, including the AI Readiness course, and a bunch of other courses: how to start a business with AI, how to start giving workshops, etc. That's all free, and you will be sent it via email. So hopefully I'll see a few of you in there. Fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow.